The alarm klaxons rang across the hull of the Federation patrol ship Horizon. A sound meant to cut through fatigue, through distraction, through fear. Commander Jake Morrison woke to it at 0300 hours, still pulling the wrinkles out of his blue uniform as he sprinted toward the bridge. The crew stood at their stations, tension carved into their faces. On the main screen, sensor echoes rippled across the dark. A cluster of unknown signals moved in from the outer rim. "Report," Morrison demanded, dropping into the command chair. Lieutenant Ben Parker, eyes glued to his console, turned with urgency. "Sir, we've got multiple vessels inbound from Sector 7. They're transmitting distress signals, universal code. But the origin is unknown. They're ships," he hesitated. "They look broken. Damaged. Like they've already survived a war." Morrison leaned forward, scanning the tactical readout. 12 vessels, mismatched sizes. Some looked like scrap welded together, others carried scars of weapons fire that would have gutted Federation cruisers. Yet, despite their condition, all of them broadcasted the same desperate call for help. "Any response to our hails?" Morrison asked. Parker shook his head. "They're receiving, but no reply." "Wait, something's coming through now." The screen flickered. Static. Then, an interior. A cramped bridge. A woman appeared, short brown hair, eyes bloodshot with exhaustion, voice steady but strained. Behind her, figures moved with quiet urgency, keeping failing systems alive by sheer force of will. "This is Captain Lisa Hayes of the Earth Evacuation Fleet," she said. "We request sanctuary. Our people are dying. Our ships are failing. We cannot last much longer." Morrison froze. Earth? The name wasn't in any stellar database. "Captain Hayes, this is Commander Morrison of the Horizon. Earth is not registered. Where is your system located?" She blinked in confusion. "The Sol system. Our homeworld was destroyed. We traveled months to reach this region. Commander, we are all that remains of humanity." Morrison's jaw tightened. "How many survivors?" 50,000 across 12 ships. Many are wounded. Our food is nearly gone. Our systems are collapsing. If you turn us away, we will not last the week." The commander didn't hesitate. "Captain Hayes, you are cleared to dock at Kepler Station. You'll have medical assistance and supplies. I'll alert Federation Command immediately." Relief softened her expression, if only for a moment. "You have no idea what this means to us." The transmission cut. Morrison turned to his comms officer. "Priority signal to Admiral Johnson. Tell him, we may have just found a lost people." Hours later, the docks of Kepler Station were alive with activity. Federation transports ferried the refugees aboard. Morrison watched from the observation deck. They looked human enough by galactic standards, 2 arms, 2 legs, familiar faces. But something was different. They moved like predators, not prey. Children stared with sharp, unblinking focus. Adults carried themselves like weary soldiers. Even in weakness, they radiated a kind of vigilance the Federation officers found unsettling. Dr. Helen Foster arrived soon after, the Federation's foremost expert on species integration. She and Morrison entered the conference room to meet with the human representatives. 5 of them sat opposite the Federation officials: Hayes, her second-in-command Captain Pete Collins, Engineer Amy Watson, and 2 civilian leaders. First, Hayes began, "Thank you. We had almost given up hope of finding anyone left in the stars who would listen." Foster tapped notes into her datapad. "Can you tell us about Earth, and what happened to it?" Collins leaned forward. "Earth was beautiful. But dangerous. Every day it tried to kill us. Volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, plagues, endless disasters. It forced us to adapt." Amy Watson added with a grim smile, we learned to fight back. Every generation faced extinction, and every generation survived. Earth shaped us into survivors. Foster frowned, recording. No known Federation species had evolved in such an environment. That humanity had thrived under constant catastrophe was troubling. What destroyed your world? The humans exchanged glances. Hayes spoke at last. They came from the stars. We don't know what they truly are, only that they had been watching us for a long time. When they attacked, we resisted. But they were too many. Too powerful. Foster's voice tightened. Did they follow you here? We hope not, Collins said. But there was no conviction in his voice. They wanted extinction. They will not stop until every last human is erased. Morrison noticed their posture. Even in this meeting room, they scanned exits, positioned themselves tactically, never once relaxing. These were not mere refugees. They were survivors of a predatory universe. The next day, Admiral Carl Johnson himself arrived at Kepler Station. A veteran of 3 wars, he reviewed Foster's reports with grim intensity. These humans concern me, he said in private to the senior staff. Bone density 3 times normal. Muscle fiber unlike anything we've catalogued. Stress responses that let them function in conditions that would kill other species. Foster nodded. Their reflexes, tactical thinking, pattern recognition, everything points to a species evolved for survival through warfare. Are they dangerous to us? Morrison asked. They looked human enough by galactic standards, 2 arms, 2 legs, familiar faces. But something was different. They moved like predators, not prey. Children stared with sharp, unblinking focus. Adults carried themselves like weary soldiers. Even in weakness, they radiated a kind of vigilance the Federation officers found unsettling. Dr. Helen Foster arrived soon after, the Federation's foremost expert on species integration. She and Morrison entered the conference room to meet with the human representatives. 5 of them sat opposite the Federation officials, Hayes, her second-in-command Captain Pete Collins, engineer Amy Watson, and 2 civilian leaders. First, Hayes began, "Thank you. We had almost given up hope of finding anyone left in the stars who would listen." Foster tapped notes into her datapad. "Can you tell us about Earth, and what happened to it?" Collins leaned forward. Earth was beautiful. But dangerous. Every day it tried to kill us. Volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, plagues, endless disasters. It forced us to adapt. Amy Watson added with a grim smile, "We learned to fight back." Every generation faced extinction, and every generation survived. Earth shaped us into survivors. Foster frowned, recording. No known Federation species had evolved in such an environment. That humanity had thrived under constant catastrophe was troubling. What destroyed your world? The humans exchanged glances. Hayes spoke at last. They came from the stars. We don't know what they truly are, only that they had been watching us for a long time. When they attacked, we resisted. But they were too many. Too powerful. Foster's voice tightened. Did they follow you here? We hope not, Collins said. But there was no conviction in his voice. They wanted extinction. They will not stop until every last human is erased. Morrison noticed their posture. Even in this meeting room, they scanned exits, positioned themselves tactically, never once relaxing. These were not mere refugees. They were survivors of a predatory universe. The next day, Admiral Carl Johnson himself arrived at Kepler Station. A veteran of 3 wars, he reviewed Foster's reports with grim intensity. "These humans concern me," he said in private to the senior staff. "Bone density 3 times normal. Muscle fiber unlike anything we've catalogued. Stress responses that let them function in conditions that would kill other species." Foster nodded. Their reflexes, tactical thinking, pattern recognition, everything points to a species evolved for survival through warfare. Are they dangerous to us? Morrison asked. The alarms screamed through Kepler station as the 3 unknown vessels closed in. On the tactical screen, they loomed like vast shadows against the stars, hulking structures of black alloy, bristling with spines and towers, radiating no heat signature, no communication signal, no life signs. Commander Jake Morrison's gut twisted. These were not ships built for exploration. They were predators. Admiral Johnson, Morrison said tightly. Orders. The veteran officer stood motionless, his face unreadable. All civilian traffic, evacuate immediately. Combat ships, form a defensive perimeter around the station. Across the deck, Captain Lisa Hayes of the Earth Evacuation Fleet stared at the screen, her face pale but resolute. Admiral, you don't understand. Your weapons won't work. We fought them for years. They adapt. Every time we developed a new defense, they countered it in days. Johnson frowned. Then how did you survive at all? Hayes looked him straight in the eye. Because we learned to fight like them. Ruthlessly. Without rules. The words lingered in the air like a curse. The first strike came without warning. A beam of white-hot energy lanced from one of the alien ships, cutting through the void. The Federation cruiser Ardent was sliced in half before its shields even flared. Debris scattered like embers in the dark. Shields up. Morrison shouted. Return fire. Missiles streaked from Federation destroyers. Particle lances hammered at alien armor. Explosions rippled across the enemy hulls, yet when the smoke cleared, the vessels remained. Their black skin seemed to drink in the damage, reshaping, healing. They're regenerating, Foster whispered from the science station. Every hit makes them stronger. The crew exchanged glances, horror dawning. This was no ordinary fleet. Hayes slammed her fist against the console. I told you. You can't fight them head-on. You'll lose everything. Johnson's voice hardened. Then what do you propose, Captain? She leaned forward, eyes burning with intensity. You let us fight. Our way. The way Earth taught us. Minutes later, the humans were granted limited control of Federation tactical systems. Their ragged evacuation fleet, 12 crippled ships barely held together with scavenged tech, moved into formation. To Morrison's astonishment, Hayes didn't position them defensively. Instead, she spread them wide, forcing the enemy to divide attention. What are they doing? Parker muttered. That's suicide. No, Morrison said slowly, watching the patterns emerge. It's bait. On cue, the alien ships shifted course, pursuing the scattered humans. Their movements were unnerving, fluid, predatory, like a pack of wolves singling out the weakest prey. But that was exactly what Hayes wanted. Now, she ordered. Human ships triggered electromagnetic pulses. They weren't meant to destroy, the pulses were designed to confuse, to blind sensors, to make prey vanish from a hunter's sight. The aliens faltered for precious seconds. In that heartbeat, human freighters shed their disguises. Panels opened, revealing weapons the Federation had never seen, rail cannons, magnetic accelerators, crude but devastating. Improvised war machines hidden in what looked like refugee barges. The first salvo ripped through the void, striking not at alien hulls but at their exposed joints, their sensory spires, their weapon vents. Weak points only survivors of a long extermination could have mapped. The effect was immediate. One alien ship shuddered, veering off course, smoke and molten alloy bleeding into space. The Federation bridge erupted in disbelief. They're crippling it, Morrison said, awe creeping into his voice. Not destroying, just breaking it apart piece by piece. Hayes didn't flinch. You can't kill them quickly. But you can wound them. And wounded predators make mistakes. The battle became chaos. Federation cruisers held the perimeter while human ships darted in and out, striking like wasps. Every move carried brutal precision, attacks meant not to overwhelm, but to exhaust. Foster watched the display, shaken. They're fighting as if they've done this 1,000 times. Hayes overheard. Her voice was low, grim. Because we have. For every city we lost. For every billion dead. We learned, strike by strike, how to survive one more day. Another alien ship reeled as its main cannon exploded under concentrated human fire. Yet victory was far from certain. The third vessel, untouched until now, surged forward and fired directly at Kepler Station. A blinding beam ripped across space. Shields collapsed. Hulls buckled. Morrison braced for death. But then, one of the human ships, a rusted freighter barely spaceworthy, broke formation. It hurled itself directly into the beam's path. For a fraction of a second, its reinforced hull absorbed the energy before detonating in a flare brighter than the station's lights. The sacrifice saved thousands. Hayes' voice cracked but held steady. They knew what had to be done. We all do. That's the price of survival. For hours, the battle raged. Alien ships adapted, countered, but the humans adapted faster. Improvised traps, feints, suicidally close maneuvers, tactics no Federation admiral would have sanctioned. At last, the wounded predators faltered. 2 drifted, crippled beyond function. The third, scarred and limping, retreated into the void, vanishing into faster-than-light shadows. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke, wreckage, drifting hulls. Thousands dead. But Kepler Station still stood. Admiral Johnson exhaled, his iron composure cracking for the first time. I've never seen tactics like that. You fought with ferocity I didn't think possible. Hayes stared at him, eyes haunted. You've only seen the surface. If you want to understand humanity, you need to know this: we are not strong because we're brave. We're strong because Earth gave us no choice. Against storms, plagues, predators, and finally, these monsters. We learned one law: adapt or die. Foster whispered, almost to herself, and now, that law belongs to the galaxy. In the days that followed, Kepler Station became a fortress. Federation engineers swarmed to study the wreckage of alien technology. Human survivors were given quarters, food, medical care. But a new tension hung in the air. Federation officers whispered of the humans, how they had turned desperate freighters into war machines, how they had stared death in the face without blinking, how their children played quietly with eyes that never stopped scanning for threats. And some whispered darker thoughts. If humanity could fight like this after losing their world, what might they become if given time to rebuild? One evening, Morrison found Hayes alone in the docking bay, gazing out at the stars. You saved us, he said quietly. I owe you my life. She shook her head. Not saved. Survived. For now. Those things, will they come back? Her silence was the only answer he needed. Finally, she spoke. Commander, you must tell your people the truth. They won't stop. They will come again. And when they do, her gaze hardened. Humanity will not run anymore. The stars outside gleamed cold and indifferent. Somewhere in that darkness, the hunters regrouped. And somewhere on Kepler Station, the galaxy's most dangerous survivors began preparing for the war to come. Kepler Station floated in uneasy silence. Its scarred hull bore the wounds of battle, scorched metal patched with emergency plating, great rents sealed with force fields. The air inside tasted of ozone and recycled dust. For the first time in centuries, the Federation had fought a battle not of its choosing, and barely survived. Yet amid the wreckage, a new presence haunted the corridors. Humanity. 50,000 survivors spread through the station's habitats. Engineers, farmers, soldiers, children. Everywhere they went, Federation officers watched them with wary eyes. They seemed ordinary at first glance, familiar faces, weary footsteps. But soon the differences emerged. They rose earlier than anyone. They worked without complaint. Their bodies recovered from injuries weeks faster than expected. And their gaze, always scanning, always calculating, never softened, even in rest. They live as if war is still happening, Dr. Helen Foster observed, her voice hushed, as she walked with Commander Morrison through the refugee quarters. It is, Morrison said. For them, it never ended. Admiral Johnson convened the council 3 days after the battle. Senior officers, scientists, and human representatives sat around a circular table, the air thick with tension. Johnson's voice carried the weight of command. Kepler Station stands because of human intervention. Without their tactics, we would have lost everything. But gratitude does not erase risk. We must decide how to proceed. Dr. Foster tapped her datapad, her tone clinical. Their biology is extraordinary. Denser bones, layered muscle fibers, accelerated adrenal responses. Even their children show neural pathways optimized for pattern recognition and tactical reasoning. No Federation species matches this combination. Are you saying they're dangerous? Morrison asked. Foster hesitated. I'm saying they were shaped by an environment hostile enough to turn survival into instinct. Every gesture, every decision is filtered through that lens. If threatened, they will not hesitate. Not ever. Hayes met the scientist's gaze without flinching. You speak as if that makes us monsters. It doesn't. It makes us alive. We didn't choose Earth's trials. We endured them. Johnson leaned forward. Captain Hayes, you claim your people were hunted. That these predators destroyed your world. Tell us, what are they? The room fell still. Hayes' voice was quiet, but every word cut deep. We don't know their true name. We called them the Harvesters. Because that is what they do. They arrive without warning. They strip worlds bare. They take what they want, resources, genetic samples, entire species. And when they are finished, nothing remains. A ripple of unease passed through the council. They don't conquer. Morrison asked. Hayes shook her head. No. They consume. And then they move on. Later, in private, Morrison found himself restless. He walked the outer observation deck, stars burning cold beyond the glass. Hayes joined him, her posture as rigid as ever, though exhaustion shadowed her eyes. You know they'll come back, Morrison said. Yes, Hayes replied. The first attack was a test. They'll study this defeat, adapt, return stronger. They always do. Then what chance do we have? She turned toward him. Alone? None. Together? Maybe. But you need to understand something, Commander. The Federation lives in peace because it has forgotten what survival costs. You have laws, treaties, limits. The Harvesters will not honor them. To fight them, you'll need to become something else. Something your people may not be willing to become. Morrison searched her face. And what is that? Her eyes were hard, unyielding. Predators. Tension thickened over the following weeks. Federation intelligence reported unease among frontier worlds, panic at the thought of an enemy that could not be reasoned with. Fleet Command demanded answers, but wreckage from the battle yielded little. The alien ships dissolved into slag when probed too deeply, as if designed to erase their own secrets. Meanwhile, humanity adapted swiftly to life aboard the station. Children learned Federation languages in days. Engineers repaired systems faster than local crews. Soldiers volunteered for joint patrols. Yet the whispers continued. They're too disciplined, one officer muttered. They're planning something, another said. Fear grew, not just of the Harvesters, but of the very survivors they had saved. The breaking point came when Foster presented her latest findings. Before the council, she displayed scans of human neural activity under stress. Their brains light up during combat, she explained. Not just fear centers, creativity, pattern recognition, decision-making. They are at their best when others are at their worst. In crisis, they do not falter. They sharpen. Johnson folded his arms. You're saying they thrive in war? Foster nodded. And that raises a question: if humanity rebuilds, if they grow strong again, what will they do when there are no more predators left to fight? All eyes turned to Hayes. Her reply was quiet, but unflinching. We did not choose war. It came for us. We lost our world because we fought too little, too late. Never again. If that frightens you, then you don't understand survival. The council fractured. Some demanded the humans be dispersed, assimilated slowly. Others argued they should be armed, made allies in the coming war. The debate raged with no resolution. That night, Morrison sought Hayes again. Do you see what's happening? He asked. They're afraid of you. Not just the harvesters, your people. She didn't deny it. Fear is natural. But it can be shaped. The Federation has grown soft under peace. We will make them strong again, whether they wish it or not. Morrison frowned. That sounds like a threat. Her voice softened, tinged with sorrow. No. It's a promise. Because if they don't become strong, they will die. Just as Earth died. Weeks later, long-range probes detected faint energy trails at the edge of Federation space. Signatures matching the retreating harvester vessel. The hunters were regrouping. The message was clear: this was only the beginning. In the briefing that followed, Admiral Johnson stood before the assembled officers and human leaders. His voice carried the weight of history. The Federation has faced wars before. But this is different. We are not fighting for territory, or pride, or politics. We are fighting for survival itself. And for that, we will need allies who understand what survival truly means. He looked at Hayes. For the first time, there was no suspicion in his gaze, only respect, and perhaps fear. Humanity will have its place among us, Johnson said. Not as refugees. Not as guests. But as partners in war. In the silence that followed, Hayes allowed herself a breath. Not relief, never that. But something close to resolve. She knew the Federation did not yet grasp the full truth. That the harvesters were not simply predators, but servants. That somewhere beyond the void lay something greater. The true architects of extinction. But that revelation could wait. For now, humanity had survived one more day. And for survivors of Earth, one more day was all they ever needed.